The moment Rowan Kyler stepped between the trembling woman and the man shouting at her in the middle of the sunny cafe courtyard, every customer stopped breathing. The patio umbrellas fluttered in the warm daytime breeze, but all Rowan saw was the panic in her eyes and the red-faced fury in the man advancing on her. Rowan didn't know her name, didn't know why her date looked ready to grab her arm, didn't know anything except that his 8-year-old son Finn was watching from their small table, and he couldn't let any child see a woman being cornered. He placed himself between them without hesitating. The man snarled something under his breath, but Rowan guided the woman away, his hand steady at her back the same way he used to help calm his late wife when her panic attacks overwhelmed her. As he escorted the woman through the courtyard, the manager appeared, customers whispered, and Finn stood up to follow, proud, frightened, and confused. Rowan didn't know that this single act of protection, performed out of instinct and decency, was about to alter the course of his entire life. If you believe kindness deserves a second chance, please take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe to Touch of Kindness. Your support keeps these stories alive. Her name was Lane Ariston, and when they reached the sidewalk, sunlight reflecting off storefront windows framed her like a scene from a gentle film. She apologized over and over, embarrassed and shaken, but Rowan reassured her that she owed no one an apology for walking away from someone who didn't respect her. Lane kept glancing back into the cafe, afraid the man might follow, but he didn't. Rowan introduced Finn, who gave her a soft smile, and for a brief moment the tension eased. Rowan assumed that was the end of their encounter. He escorted her to a rideshare pickup point, made sure she got in safely, and waved as the car pulled away. He didn't know that just inside the cafe, behind a tinted window partition, someone else had watched everything. The composed, sharp-eyed billionaire investor Adrielle Vaughn, a woman known for her cold, strategic mind and unshakable presence. Her assistant had been urging her to take a lunch meeting, but Adrielle hadn't moved since Rowan intervened. Her gaze remained fixed on the single dad in the faded blue work shirt, his tired posture, his calming hands, and the little boy tugging his sleeve. She watched them leave and felt something she didn't feel often, warmth sharp enough to crack her armor. Rowan went back to his day like nothing unusual had happened. He returned Finn to school, then headed to the auto shop where he worked. The place was small, with peeling paint and a dusty sign, but Rowan needed every paycheck to cover rent and medical bills, still lingering from the years after his wife's passing. He worked 6 days a week, taking any overtime he could get. His boss often forgot to say thank you. Customers sometimes complained, even when Rowan did everything right, and the exhaustion of balancing single fatherhood weighed on him constantly. But he kept going. Every morning, he packed Finn's lunch with a handwritten note. Every night, he read him a chapter of whichever fantasy book Finn chose. Rowan didn't know how to be perfect, but he knew how to be steady, gentle, and persistent. He didn't know that someone had taken notice. 3 days after the cafe incident, a sleek black SUV pulled up to the auto shop. Rowan didn't look up at first. He was bent under the hood of an old sedan, but when the footsteps reached him, he straightened and froze. Adrielle Vaughn herself stood before him in a crisp cream blazer and tailored pants, her copper-brown hair pulled back, her expression poised yet softened in a way that surprised even her. She told him she had witnessed what he did at the cafe, that she respected men who acted with principle rather than pride, and that she wanted to thank him by offering him an opportunity. Rowan wiped his hands on a rag, utterly confused, and waited for her to continue. Adrielle told him she owned multiple businesses, including a luxury vehicle restoration branch searching for someone with integrity and raw talent. She had looked up his certifications, seen his reviews, and wanted to offer him a position. Higher pay, flexible hours, room for growth. Rowan thought he misheard. His mind rushed straight to Finn, the overdue dentist bill, the broken washing machine, the way Finn had outgrown his sneakers again. Adriel saw the hesitation in his eyes and reassured him that the offer wasn't charity or pity, it was belief. She handed him her card and told him to think on it. Rowan spent the afternoon torn. Good things didn't usually drop into his life without strings attached. But Adriel's presence had felt sincere, steady, and oddly familiar, like meeting someone whose frequency matched his. Finn, when Rowan told him, immediately said he should take the job because people don't offer good things unless they see something in you. Finn had always been wiser than his years, so the next morning Rowan called the number. The new job changed their world in slow, meaningful ways. Rowan finally had predictable hours and enough income to breathe. He could pick Finn up directly after school and help him with homework. He started sleeping more than 5 hours a night. Adriel visited the restoration shop weekly, always under the guise of checking progress, but she lingered near Rowan longer than she intended each time she asked about Finn's interests, Rowan's projects, his childhood memories. Rowan found himself looking forward to the days she came by, even though he tried to ignore the feeling tugging at him. She was a billionaire, polished and powerful, living in a world of gala dinners and high-rise board meetings. He was a single dad trying to catch up on late bills. Their worlds weren't just different, they were galaxies apart. But Adriel didn't see worlds, she saw character, and Rowan had the kind of steady presence that felt like home. She found herself thinking about him late at night, replaying the warmth of his laugh, the gentle way he spoke about Finn, the humility with which he carried his life. When she finally admitted to herself that she was falling for him, it frightened her. She had built her life on control and logic, and here was a man who made her feel something far stronger than strategy. The turning point came one quiet afternoon when Adriel joined Rowan and Finn at the park after a worksite visit. It was a clear, warm daytime scene with sunlight threading through the leaves. Finn was practicing soccer, and Rowan stood on the grass cheering him on. Adriel watched them with an ache she didn't expect. When Finn came running to share a small accomplishment, he tripped, scraping his knee. It wasn't serious, but he winced, and Rowan knelt immediately, soothing him with such skill and compassion that Adriel's breath caught. Rowan's voice was steady, his touch gentle, and Finn trusted him completely. Something inside her cracked open. She realized then that it wasn't just admiration, it was longing. She wanted to be part of that little world, where love wasn't measured by wealth or power, but by tenderness and presence. Still, Rowan remained unaware. He appreciated Adriel deeply, but assumed she simply believed in him professionally. It wasn't until Lane, the woman he helped at the cafe, unexpectedly reached out that the truth began to surface. Lane had found Rowan through social media, wanting to thank him again. When they met for a brief daytime coffee catch-up, she casually mentioned that she worked in Adriel's corporate network and had overheard something surprising. Adriel had turned down 2 high-profile dates, citing that she already cared for someone. Rowan felt his stomach flip, but dismissed it. Why would a billionaire care for a mechanic? The answer came 2 weeks later. Adriel invited Rowan and Finn to a private charity event at a community center she funded. It was a daytime gathering full of local families, simple food, and kid-friendly activities, nothing like the lavish events the public assumed she preferred. Finn spent the afternoon playing games, while Rowan volunteered to help set up an outdoor display. Adriel joined him under the shade of a white canopy tent, the sunlight soft behind her. She looked unusually nervous. Rowan noticed the way she kept adjusting the bracelet on her wrist, the way her breath trembled before she spoke. She told him she hadn't been entirely honest. She hadn't offered him a job solely because he was talented, though he was. She had offered it because seeing him protect Lane had reminded her what genuine courage and kindness looked like. She had spent years surrounded by people chasing her wealth,